Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are on Tuesday, November 5th. We're going to take a look at NNDM today. So Nano Dimension, I had a request to take a fresh look at it, and it's still sort of well within the bounds of the levels that we've had on the chart for quite some time. I did throw in, I think, from 216 down back onto the chart today because we just had all of these levels from like 221 above, and had let the lower levels slip since it had pushed off of that level previously. So we're sort of back there, kind of just, I won't beleaguer this, but, in January of 2024, it came down to the same like 206 level. And I know that this is a dip to 204, but then it came back and it double bottomed there again. And that's sort of where it ran and took off. But as you see, the recent push here in late 2024, it paled in comparison to the levels that it was able to reach off of that bottom in early 2024. So maybe something to consider, that it's still moving off of the same lows, but it's not being able to press through the walls that it meets along the way to sort of the upper $2 level. So what could that mean? It could mean that, buyers are still showing up around that 206 level. I would worry that at some point maybe they are exhausted of buying in at that level, and maybe that sort of, stops at some point, or that, it dips down there and the buyers just aren't there anymore. So that would maybe concern me a little bit. And then, this inability to reach, even not to say it had to reach the same highs as before, like, peaking over $3 here, but it wasn't even an approach to it at all, right? It died out at about 260 or so. And so, that's maybe where I would look and say, okay, like, the sellers obviously have vast control of NNDM at the moment. I mean, that's apparent on the chart. But it is putting continuous pressure on dip buyers to continue coming in and buying it up, just hovering over that $2 level. So I would just maybe be cautious and keep an eye on whether or not that's able to sustain for any period of time up until, a longer run, if you will, could take place. Now I'll put this in here. Maybe I'll do sort of a not super risky, not super conservative. I'll kind of split the difference and say, there's this downtrend resistance that it's been working off of for quite some time, and that is about where it petered out after that double bottom push previously. So right now it's sort of just convalescing after this, that big move up, but then it immediately sold off, tried to consolidate at this like 230-ish level, and then gave way there and is now sort of batting itself around between like 216 and 221. So question is it going to get any holding power here, any strength, or what is that going to look like? You could, if we come back and zoom out at some point, maybe best case scenario here for the bulls, this was a run up and then a double bottom right back to here where it did get that big push, double bottom in this range. This obviously is a sell-off and then a pretty apparent bear flag. And so the question is, do we come down here and just make another bear flag and then press through that 216? That would be sort of my question or my worry. But, if it is able to move, if I'm an NNDM bull, I would want it to start moving strong and quickly so that we don't just continuously put in a series of bear flags and just sort of slowly move down from there. But these are the levels that I see right now. This battle for like 221, I wouldn't want to see it lose 216. That would give me some concern. Again, if I'm an NNDM bull, which I don't think I have any NNDM position at the moment, 212 and then 206 if it does slip down there again. And again, if it does get down to 206, my question would be, are the buyers still there? Because they've continued to show up in some pretty challenging times, but at some point, I don't know that they will. This approach to 230, if it does get some some legs over 221, would be the next one to watch. If it's able to come up and even sort of compress or consolidate in the same range as it did back here, that could give it a good opportunity to make a move or even sidestep its way through if we want sort of a longer arc on the move to try to press through this downtrend resistance. Now, what's it going to do if and when it presses through that resistance? That can be another challenging moment. So we maybe have to wait and see on that. If we take a look at the EMA situation here, it also, this is another way to view that downtrend resistance, at least in very recent swings, is it's just continuously pushing off of or unable to hold action above this gray 183 EMA. And so there's that to contend with, of course. And then it did have the EMAs sort of bunching up here as it was consolidating, but as we said, put in a bear flag, push down, and now these short-term EMAs, the 8, the 21, and the 34, fully in a bearish formation at the moment. So, is it going to be able to at least consolidate and get those back in alignment to try to push over them? Maybe we'll have to wait and see. But right now, it's showing strong moves here, this wick off of the 8, and then sort of having an inability to press toward the 8 at the moment. So could something swoop in and sort of give it a big catalyst, and it could sort of overrun all of these? Certainly. But, shy of that, the bare bones look on the chart is a little bit challenging for NNDM at the moment. Here in the think or swim side of things, we see these ATR levels that it's coming into, and it's sitting mid-range at the moment, and these levels last for the month of November, so we're just getting kicked into them. It sort of did the same thing back here. You see the call trigger, the put trigger. It kind of came in below the baseline for the ATR levels that month and rejected off of it, and then just kind of batted itself between the put trigger and the baseline. So now at least it's coming in above the baseline. The question is it going to be able to have any meaningful motion toward or through the call trigger here, right now situated at 234. So also percentage wise, a decent increase would be needed to get it there. But we do see sort of a slew of trigger, fire, re-trigger, refire. That got some motion. But again, as we were looking at on Webull, it quickly lost it. And then another trigger and fire. So, it's just sort of throwing, to me, that looks like it's just kind of throwing a bunch of noise. It's hard for me to take the TTM squeeze indicator on this particular chart. Obviously, I have it up there because broadly speaking, I find it valuable. But in this one, it looks a little bit noisy to me. And the compression is such that it's not providing any real monumental moves. You see the lengthy compression over here through the triggering, and then when it fired, it did get motion up for the bulls, but like we said, it just quickly drew back down to compression and now is sort of bearish to mid-range on the compression scale for the oscillator. So phase-wise, still, sort of like just one big broad compression if you take this little blip out of it. So unless you caught that like run up and you just knew to sell, there, like that it was going to just bleed all of those gains really quickly, then, this is all just a flat move basically for you. If you're holding through that, you're probably very close to, cost basis wise about where you were in early September, for example. So we'll see if it's able to make any motion, but if anything, I would look for it to at least hold this mid-range, this baseline ATR level, would at least give a slightly better look than using the put trigger as the support level for the whole month. At least it's sort of moving up the scale, but nothing tremendously compelling looking to me at the moment, especially when the compression is just so lengthy and the TTM squeeze indicator has been just throwing out a bunch of noise relatively recently, at least. But, this is the long view of the chart. Obviously, it's pretty jumpy, pretty challenging for the bulls. But when all else fails, As we saw, those EMA levels are fully bearish at the moment, so it's going to need to do something to sort of work with those and get some motion back in range. But otherwise, just these baseline levels of paying attention to 216 on the bottom and 221 at the sort of present motion. And then if it is able to get any footing, any approach toward 230, what happens? Is it a strong reject, meaning where it was trying to build a floor here previously, it treats it as new resistance? That's not going to be potentially a great sign, or it will at least maybe speak to need for a lengthier period of compression before it is going to get anything that looks like bullish momentum or a run of some sort. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week is off to a good start. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.